Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and we are going live here. And I hope it's working on the platforms that I'm trying to broadcast over. But just 18 months ago, my life looked completely different. I was 208 pounds, pre diabetic. My blood pressure was 166 over 116. I had constant fatigue. I used to start my morning out, as embarrassed as I am to admit this, by going to Starbucks early every morning and getting a very sugary caramel macchiato. After heading home and doing a few things, and then jumping in the shower before heading to my office. On my way to my office, I would stop into the convenience store at the corner and grab a 32-ounce Dr. Pepper. That's how I started every day for over 7.5, 8 years. My sleep was terrible. I was getting up 2 to 3 times in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and it used to just drive me crazy. I couldn't stand it. About 18 months ago, after seeing my son carrying around a bottle, actually just like this one in my office, I saw it sitting on his desk, every day for about a week. And I finally asked him, what are you drinking? I figured he was just drinking some protein shake or something. And when he told me what it was, I was a little bit frustrated, to say the least, because like I was saying, my health was not in a good place at all. And frankly, I felt terrible. That afternoon crash and constant fatigue was just really getting to me. In fact, it used to drive me crazy. I'd get up, or I'd get home, between 5 and 6, have dinner, and I was already tired and lacking energy. But after dinner, I felt absolutely worthless. I literally had no energy. And then, as embarrassed as I am to say this, I was pretty much a couch potato. Unless there was something scheduled that I had to go do, I just didn't feel good at all. And so I would just hang out on the couch. And when my grandkids would show up, I just didn't have the energy to run around or, play and give them the attention that they deserved and that I wanted to give them and spend time with them. Anyway, so when my son told me what that drink was that he was drinking, I started it the very next day. And 5 days later, I was absolutely shocked at the way I felt. My energy was totally normal. In fact, that changed within 48 hours. And what really blew my mind was that I hadn't gone to Starbucks. I hadn't gotten a Dr. Pepper and hadn't made a conscious, thought. I didn't go into starting taking this drink that he shared with me with an attitude or a plan that I was going to eat better. I was going to exercise more. I was going to cut back on this or that. None of that happened. I simply just hadn't gone and gotten those drinks in particular, let alone I didn't do any snacking at night, or frankly, between lunch and dinner. And that really blew me away and got my attention. So I started learning more about this product. I wanted to know why. Why was it making me feel this way? But secondly, what caused me to feel that way in the beginning? Why did those things happen? Why was my doctor putting me on, let's call them Tic Tacs, if you will, for sake of a platform or two that may be a little bit sensitive to some of the words that I would like to use. But when that happened, like I said, I started to go down the rabbit hole. I wanted to learn why. One of the first books that I got, actually, was called right here, Why We Get Sick, by Dr. Benjamin Bickman. And as I read through that, on the cover, it says at the very top, the hidden epidemic behind most chronic disease and how to fight it. It's the hidden epidemic at the root cause of most chronic disease. And that obviously got my attention. So I read through that book and I was shocked to find out that all of these problems, they were all connected. The stubborn weight, not being able to feel like I could lose weight, the high blood pressure, the pre-diabetes, excuse me, the fatigue, the sleep, skin tags. I had skin tags at the time too. A couple of months after taking this drink, they disappeared. And I was shocked. So, like I said, the thing I never did was ask why until this drink had an impact on me. So I wanted to understand, why the doctor just told me, you have high blood pressure. Here's a Tic Tac. Take this paper and go get your new Tic Tacs. You've got high cholesterol. Here's this paper to get some more Tic Tacs. Weight. Oh, you need to eat less and exercise more. Those were the responses. But never was I explained why all of these things were happening at the same time. I was never asked about my diet. I was never educated on nutrition. That was never even discussed. So we've got a huge problem, first of all, with the system. We have a system where these individuals who we go to for help when we have health problems, they've been educated and trained based around what Tic Tac to give us, what flavor of Tic Tac to give us based on the symptoms we're having, that flavor of Tic Tac can help. They were never educated on what is driving that symptom that they're having that's causing these problems. If we really step back and take a look, that's really freaking messed up. And that's the way it's been for, my whole lifetime. I think it's probably been 80 to 100 years since, would have been the early 1920s, I believe, when we had the old Rockefellers take over the AMA and everything changed. So again, I was never asked about diet and nutrition. Most people aren't. I believe we're seeing a little bit of things changing now, and I hope that continues. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works. And we have definitely found as we take these different Tic Tacs, they do often change numbers, or symptoms often get repressed or go away. But then we find out later, maybe a year, years, maybe a decade, that because of that Tic Tac, now we need another Tic Tac because we've got other symptoms, other problems that have been created. So really the thing that I talk most about on my channels, if you followed me at all, is insulin resistance. Because as Dr. Benjamin Bickman talks about in the book, Why We Get Sick, that is the hidden epidemic at the root of most chronic disease. So if we can reverse that, things start to improve. Within 3 months of me starting the simple system my son shared with me, the simple daily drink that I take, my blood pressure went from 166 over 116. It's now 120 over 74. As I mentioned, the skin tags disappeared. Most nights, I sleep through the night now. Might have 2 or 3 nights I get up once versus 2 to 3 times consistently in the past. The fatigue gone. Afternoon crashes gone. I've had, I think, in just under 18 months, I think I've had a total of 5 Dr. Peppers. And every time I've had one, I can't finish it. They're just too sweet. I never had that feeling, never was like that before, but that's just, they're too sweet. I can't drink them. No Starbucks. So I was shocked when I learned that all of these symptoms, these problems, I should say, are connected. But then when I asked why, read the book, learned a lot about this. That changed everything. And I got off every Tic Tac. I am on none of those things anymore. And so what happens when we become insulin resistant is, let me just share with you an image that shows you all the things that are impacted from insulin resistance. When we're insulin resistant, it can cause any of the problems you're seeing here. I have a lot of friends who I know now that have been taking the same protocol, no longer taking insulin at all. Blood pressure, totally normal. Weight loss is crazy. I mean, I've got friends that are down 70, 120 pounds, brain fog, got a lot of anything that ends with itis, arthritis, dermatitis, bronchitis. It's seen a huge impact. And the reason being is because inflammation is caused from insulin resistance as well. So when you can control inflammation, that obviously is going to have an impact on a lot of different issues. Is anyone out there fighting or battling any of those symptoms, whether it be weight, blood pressure, high cholesterol, brain fog, fatigue, the afternoon crash? If anybody has experienced any of those, put one in the chat. Oh, I see. Appreciate that, Tom. Well, what happens when carbs become glucose? Insulin's like the key that helps it get into the cells. And when those cells are locked, we become insulin resistant. And then that stuff, that glucose, then it gets stored as fat. So instead of burning fat for fuel, we're just burning the carbs. Unless we can reverse that and get our body to become insulin sensitive again, those cells are locked. They're unable to absorb that glucose. And that is why high blood pressure, belly flat, diabetes, fatty liver, the poor energy, the cravings, all those other things, they all travel together. Now, I'm not anti-Tic Tac. I think, there are some situations and some of those Tic Tacs that definitely are necessary and can save lives. But you don't want to get a Tic Tac piece of paper to put you on the Tic Tacs so that now have what today is huge in business as a membership. Memberships are recurring month after month after month. If we just think about it logically, why would we be given a paper for a Tic Tac that we're told is a chronic situation and we're going to be taking that the rest of our lives? I don't know about you, but that's not a membership I want. So we've got to focus on the root cause. And if we can find the root cause, identify that, and then implement things that will improve or reverse the problem, that's why we see so many different conditions, health problems that were taught are chronic improve. We don't want to be managing symptoms. We want metabolic recovery. Those are two different things. Managing symptoms versus metabolic recovery. Now, as I mentioned, I went from 208 down to 178, 30 pounds in just under 4 months. I cannot tell you how much better I feel. And I've got bad knees. I had torn ACL years ago, and I've never been the same since. But I'll tell you what, when you throw a sandbag on your shoulders that's 30 pounds more, that makes a huge impact on the way you feel. And my knees definitely notice that extra 30 pounds. So as I've dumped that sandbag got rid of that from carrying that around, it's made a huge difference. Sorry, I got a little phone call. Let me send them to voicemail. Now, as my symptoms improved, as I mentioned, I got off the Tic Tacs, but the root cause started to reverse and basically disappear. Now, I didn't know that skin tags were from insulin resistance. They are. So is if you have any of those dark patches on your neck, under your arms, groin area, that's a sign of insulin resistance. So it's critical that we become insulin sensitive again. Is there anybody out there who can relate to any of these symptoms? Let me know in the chat if there's anything specific you're struggling with or frustrated with, so I can address it. Now, when we understand insulin resistance, I mentioned, once I learned about this daily reset, this daily protocol, that's all I did is I simply implemented that with a few other things. And I simply just take these packets twice a day. Well, one of these twice a day, and this one, which is a 7-fiber matrix, once a day. And with 16/8 fasting, intermittent fasting, where I'm only eating within an 8-hour window, some of you may be going, oh crap, I don't like fasting. That was me. I don't like fasting either. But this product makes it so easy. It reduces cravings and it makes it very simple not to eat. So I eat lunch between 11:30 to 1 at the latest, typically, and then dinner no later than 7:30, and then I don't eat after that. And it's critical. We've been taught. There's been so many things that have come out. I remember about a decade ago, I was on this program that eat every 3 to 4 hours to keep the metabolism burning. That's not the way to do things. The body needs time to rest. The intermittent fasting is huge. Now, if we look back in time, 50, 60 years, 70 years, they didn't eat 3 times a day. Think of the name breakfast. It's break fast, right? It's amazing the word magic that is involved in a lot of the English language. But if you use a 16/8 fast, your body is able to rest, reset, and really optimize itself. That way you're only eating 2 meals a day and then no snacking between meals. That's another critical thing. And this protocol makes that very simple. Fiber before meals. In all the processed foods we have today, all the fiber has been stripped out of it. There is really not that much fiber in anything we eat. And so this is such a critical piece of this protocol that I use because it's giving you insoluble and soluble fibers. Like I said, it's a 7-fiber matrix. This product has over 20 clinical studies. It's got 5 different patents. And it's truly incredible. The science behind it's remarkable. So another huge thing that you can do that will help is, after each meal, walk just 10, 15 minutes. That will improve things a lot. And make sure to hydrate. Between those things and these plant-based nutrients that I drink every day, that's all I've done. And I've had drastic improvement in my health, as I've mentioned. So, again, my results are 30 pounds down, blood pressure normalized, energy is fantastic. I can keep up with my grandkids now. I don't have the afternoon crash. I can go have a heavy meal if I have, say, a business luncheon and it's a fairly heavy meal. I remember when I used to do that, I used to dread going back to my office. I felt like I'd rather, I wanted to go take a nap. I don't have that now because I drink this fiber 5 to 15 minutes before I eat, and that stabilizes those glucose spikes. And that's made all the difference in the world. The brain fog's gone. So it's really been a game changer for me and hundreds of people. In fact, I'm going to play a short video and let you hear from a couple of guys and what they've experienced after they started this protocol. Some of these are remarkable.
I've been a diagnosed diabetic for 15 years. My glucose was out of control. I also have hypertension, heart disease, and 2 years ago, all of my health problems culminated with a heart attack, open heart surgery, 5 bypasses, and heart failure just for good measure. At the advice of my doctor, I started on a carnivore diet and doing hormone therapy 2 years ago, and it really helped. I lost some weight, lost some inches on my waist, and my glucose and A1C got better, and all my labs got better. But it wasn't quite what I needed. I started on the Feel Great system in February, and boy, am I glad I did. In 3 weeks, my triglycerides dropped 500 points. My morning glucose spike is down 150 points, and I've had to cut my blood pressure meds in half a couple of times. Here's a before and after picture of me and my wife. We're both on the protocol.
That's pretty remarkable. You know, that guy had some major health problems, and he's doing so much better. That was Rob. Now here's Jim. Let me let you hear what Jim has to say.
I've been a type 2 diabetic for 15 years. I was overweight for 25 years. I was an eating machine. I would hit the refrigerator, eat something. An hour later, eat something. My doctor wanted to put me on another med. He wanted to put me on a statin. And that was the line in the sand for me. I was like, no, I'm already on enough meds because of the metformin I was on. Not to mention 10 milligrams of lisinopril for high blood pressure. I'd already been to every vitamin store in the world looking for supplements. And here I am, 120 pounds lighter. I went from an A1C of 9.2 to 6.2 in 3 months. Now I'm at a 5.4. Cholesterol is down. It has changed my life. The energy that I have is incredible. I feel better than when I was 40. This is not something that you keep for yourself. This is something you share with your family. You share with your friends. Because you cannot understand the quality of life you'll gain by returning yourself back to good metabolic health. Give yourself the 90.
Pretty incredible. And I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos similar to those. This is truly a remarkable product. So question, anybody have any of the symptoms that we've discussed here this morning? If we do, type them in the chat and I'll address them. Or if there's any specific frustrations, things that feel like you're doing right, but you're not getting the results you're looking for. Again, my story is simple. Fatigued, overweight, poor sleep, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, pre-diabetic. As soon as I fixed those cells so that they could unlock and let that glucose back in, everything changed. You know, the blood pressure dropped, belly fat and excess weight dropped, inflammation improved, cravings disappeared. And really all I changed, like I said, was adding a simple daily protocol every day, implementing the intermittent fasting. I do walk a little bit here and there, not anything excessive, and I haven't really added any additional exercise. The thing that's amazing is I didn't change the foods I eat even. I do pay attention more, but I didn't change up my diet a whole lot. I still eat carbs. In fact, last night, my wife brought home pizza. That's a lot of carbs. Just made sure I took my fiber before. No problem. I don't eat that a lot, but when I do, I guess my point is you don't have to cut out some of the things you love. You don't have to eliminate sugar. Obviously, the more you can, the better off you'll be regardless. But when you have a product that is so incredible, that it has such an impact that you still can eat pretty much like you have and enjoy the things that you love, it's a game changer. I appreciate you all being here. Looks like a few of you just bounced off, but thanks to those of you stuck around, and I'll be back soon, or just follow me on any of my social channels. And if you're interested in learning more about this protocol that I use, you can just check out You can just go here and find the information that is needed to learn about it just by going to that there on one of my profiles, if I can get it to focus. I'm just being careful what I say, obviously, because the algorithm on a platform or two doesn't like it, but it's that FJ link tree. FG link tree. You can go there. It'll give you a lot of the information. You can learn more about the science. And hope everybody has a fantastic day. And we'll talk to you soon. And please jump over to my social profiles, whichever one you enjoy most, and give me a follow. I'd appreciate it. And we talk a lot about insulin resistance. Take care.